CRN TV is connecting you with the industry leaders who are protecting us from the latest security threats. Join me, Cass Cooper, as we highlight the expertise of women who are driving innovation and solving today's toughest cyber challenges. Welcome to Channel Women in Security. Hello, welcome to Channel Women in Security. My name is Cass Cooper, and I have the pleasure of being your host. I'm so excited to be here with a friend and a colleague. We met at Women of the Channel for the first time and had a really great conversation, and I'm just really glad to bring Barb Huelskamp to everybody here at Channel Women in Security. Barb, I'm going to give you a little moment to introduce yourself and tell everybody about who you are and what your role is, and then we'll get into a couple of questions. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Been looking forward to chatting with you today. So Barb Huelskamp, I am currently the global channel leader here at Solarwinds. I've been here just over 4 months, so relatively new. I've been in channels for quite some time. I've worked for several ISVs. I've worked for a hyperscaler. And prior to that, I was actually a sales leader, and I was a successful sales leader finding channel relationships and made the leap from sales to channels back in like 1993. And prior to that, I held a whole bunch of different jobs, just experimenting to figure out what I wanted to do. Was in inside sales, customer service. I did accounting for a while, figured out that is not my forte.
I think we all have had those experiences where we're like, I'm going to try this for a little while, and then you realize this is not for me.
This is not for me. But everything led me to channels, and I have found my home here. I am, what some corporations might say, well-placed. I love what I do, love helping organizations scale, and I've built some really great relationships with channel partners out there in the ecosphere that are more than business relationships now.
Yeah, I love to hear that. So typically on Channel Women in Security, we talk a lot about cybersecurity, what's happening in the marketplace, but we're going to take a little departure and talk about career journey and career mapping. I think in this economy and the way things are going for women, it's really important for other women to see what possibilities there are. And one thing I love about your story that you shared already is you've held several different positions, but you found a home in a place that makes sense for you. So tell me a little bit about what brought you into this seat, and maybe we can talk a little about what opportunities you see for women who are coming into the channel who kind of don't know what they want to do yet.
Sure. My journey into SolarWinds was an exciting one. And when people ask me why I'm here, it's an easy answer. One, they're really committed to the channel. And that was obvious through talking with the C-suite. Before we went private, you saw it in their 10K. I talked to folks in the industry, and I had like 11 interviews. And you can't hide anything right through that many connections. I knew I could make an impact from lessons learned. They're sort of mid-company transitioning from a heritage of direct selling to the channel. That's fun for me. That's exciting. But as importantly was the culture. And this is an organization where their culture and their values is not really just words on a wall. It's incorporated into everything we do, the partner program, hiring, how we go about collaborating and executing on initiatives here at the organization. And they've just made space for diverse opinions, diverse roles, different experiences, and encouraging innovation to move forward more strategically. They've got a great platform and a great partner ecosystem. So I'm grateful to be here.
There's this assumption that diversity only looks one type of way, right? And diversity of women. But I think that there's a lot more complexity inside of women's journey and career growth that sometimes gets underplayed. Do you think that your background is an asset or a liability when it comes to your leadership?
I've seen it as an asset thus far. When I first got started in my sales career, we're just talking about this internally. I was in public sector. I was almost always the only woman in the room. And I'm pretty tall. I'm blonde. A lot of assumptions were made. And I could physically see people sitting forward in a desk when they figured out I really knew what I was talking about. I embrace being the only woman in a room sometimes, but I'm also that person that looks around. I did a podcast a year or two ago, And I'd like to see a woman at every table. Like I was at a training event and I thought, okay, there is a woman at every table. Whoever did this, even though it's a male dominated event, thought enough to make sure that the tables were diverse. At this point, the advantage I think I'm bringing is there are fewer women in the channel chief role than men. I've done this a few times at a few companies, different sized roles, right? So this isn't a here's how I've done it, here's how we're going to do it again. I just feel like I've also been able to bring diverse experiences from public, private, large, small. So I'm bringing diverse opinions and I'm bringing diverse experiences besides my own personal diversity.
So, as a salesperson, as a channel chief, like what are some of the things that you would suggest to anyone that is coming up and wanting to learn how to get there? One of the things that I always encourage people is find someone in a position that you would like to be in
Right.
and offer them a virtual coffee and ask them, how did you get here? Tell me what I need to know. Because I think sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So, give me maybe two or three things that you would suggest someone who wants to be in your seat in the future that
Sure.
they could be doing right now.
Yeah, because I do see a lot of female channel managers, but I think they're often overlooked for leadership, sometimes for some advice or traditional frameworks. But one, women need to advocate for themselves. Don't underestimate your potential. You might not check, I've heard this several times, you might not check everything off on that list, but that's okay. Because I think just as leaders, we understand there is no perfect fit, but you've got to advocate for yourself and do it early. I hear women very often say, no, I'm not ready yet. But as a leader, I also think women need to pay it forward and know and advocate and nominate someone for a job, encourage them to apply, send in a proactive reference for someone, right? So that gives confidence to these women to apply. Just I think that's what stands in our way more often than not. We go, "Oh, I'm not ready. That's going to be for somebody else. They're not going to want me." I think you need that to advocate for yourself.
And what I hear you saying is that you don't hear that from the men, from the boys. You don't hear that same kind of rhetoric.
Not at all, right? They understand that they might learn along the way, but they also have more confidence in their experience and their results, and I think we need to do the same.
What are some things that give you confidence?
Your experiences, right? And it was something we talked about on our Women in SolarWinds session earlier today. I do remember that pivotal moment where I felt like I was influencing outcomes or influencing decisions because I brought other views because I've done this before. Or I've done that before and it didn't work, but here's why. Doesn't mean we shouldn't try it here, right? But here's what didn't work. And so bringing those experiences, and while, I joke I'm old and I've been at this for a few decades, you may only be in the workforce for 5 or 10 years, but you've got experiences and lessons learned. Be confident in bringing those forward and sharing those views for sure.
So, what else can we expect from you as you move into this role at SolarWinds?
Um, Listen, my personal journey is not over and I'm still learning. I think one of my favorite things is when I come in with an idea and my team pivots me from that idea, right? I joke that I've got a rough idea. I think I know what I want to do. And I genuinely believe I bring an idea and we collaborate on it and it's going to be better. I want you to poke holes in it. What I expected to do might not be what we're going to end up doing. But I love when someone surprises me with something I hadn't thought about, right? A dark corner I didn't look into, or they bring a perspective because of their experience that I hadn't considered and we change. That doesn't feel like a defeat to me. That is fun because now I'm still learning even at this stage in my career. So we're gonna innovate together.
I love the idea of innovation and then being able to come with different ideas and come to the table thinking you know what the meeting or the brainstorm session is going to look like and then walk away with something that's better. A lot of people use the yes and framework. Yes, we can do that and we could also do this and we could also do this instead of tearing the idea down or eliminating it altogether. It allows a new form of collaboration. So, we talked a little bit about people who are coming into the channel ecosystem and wanting to move into newer roles and more leadership. What about women who are at kind of I don't want to say the sunset of their careers, but, coming down and moving into new roles or moving into new places, still having a lot to contribute, but also thinking about their futures and what could be different.
Yeah.
What do you see on the channel horizon for them?
Take a risk on yourself. 30 years ago, I wouldn't have said, I'm going to be a channel chief. My daughter still asks me what it is exactly I do sometimes, but there's a lot of cross-functional roles you can do as well, right? When I talked about all the little jobs I had before I got into sales, I really thought I was going to be in marketing. And I was really starting to enjoy that. I was a marketing assistant at a major consumer brand and having a good time. And I was working for a sales leader. And that's kind of where I got the sales bug. So I've pivoted a few times to different roles that led me to this. So let's say you're in a channel role and maybe you're in the fall of your career, not necessarily the winter yet. What are the aspects of your role that you do love? I've seen a few folks pivot to something like chief of staff or right, the broader sales operations piece because they want to make it better, right? They see process that could be fixed and they've done it before. They've got ideas on how to fix that, or they're looking for that broader business role like a chief of staff or maybe even, CRO. Take a risk on yourself.
So we can't have any of these conversations without talking about AI and its impact in our work and our life. How are you using AI and learning it, or are you using it?
Yes, personally, use it all the time. As an example, I think I'm a pretty good writer. Um, I'll always feed something I'm writing in to see how AI can make it better. Asking opinions, there's quite a bit of content in there as we consider program changes and what's out there. I think there are some things from a program perspective and how we're interacting with our partners that are people don't like the word predictable, but there needs to be some predictability in what they expect from a partner program. But how can you be innovative? How can you be disruptive, but not disruptive where it's stalls, right? I've also seen programs be changed where it's so disruptive that it actually that the partners need time to catch up, right? So when I think about anytime we're innovating on a program, I'll always use AI um, to make sure I'm informed on maybe aspects I hadn't considered.
I think what I love about different AI engines and LLMs in particular kind of like expands our brain, right? If we think of a large language learning model or however you want to package it, like the Geminis, the Claudes, the ChatGPTs, all of those, it allows us to be creative in the way that we think and expand our brain space, whereas different tools can be collaborators and even moving into agentic AI. I'm really excited to see what that is on the horizon, specifically with SolarWinds, but with any other organization also. Is there anything else that we left out that we need to talk about today?
One of the subjects that came up today at the Women of SolarWinds session was around confidence and linearity in careers. I have not had a linear career. There was a time when I just kept taking what I'd call parallel roles, right, or same level roles. But when the time came for the VP position, right after 3 or 4 roles that were probably peer roles, I was, what I believe to be the obvious choice. And we had a great discussion today about exposing yourself to different roles, even if they appear to be on the same level on an org chart for different experiences, whether it's, for me, it was different markets, different partner types, getting introduced to running a partner program, or it could be different stakeholder positions, right? That lead you to where you want to go, because there's certainly a lot to be learned in those different pieces where on an org chart, it might not look like that you're climbing that ladder, but it will lead to that overall position for your long-term career goals.
I love that. That's great advice.
We also have a lot of good conversation with women about, the cliche imposter syndrome and confidence. And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, Cass, but you having confidence in your experiences and having an organization where you get a good reaction and your diverse opinions and your diverse views or experiences are accepted and collaborated on and ingested into decision making will continue to give women the confidence to speak up, to ask questions, and then to advocate for a view that they believe is right, whether it's in their role or for themselves in their career. So just asking everyone to continue making space for those conversations.
It's beautiful. Awesome. Well, it was so great talking with you, Barb. Will I see you in New York?
You will, and I
All
think
right.
we need to have another profound dinner moment.
I would love that so much. Look forward to it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really look forward to seeing you in New York. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Channel Women in Security, and we will see you online. Thank you for watching Channel Women in Security from CRN TV. Be sure to subscribe for more stories from the women who are shaping cybersecurity, breaking barriers, and making their mark on the channel ecosystem.